My name is Eleanor Brooks. I am 63 years old, and I live alone in a quiet little house in a small town in Vermont. Many years ago, my husband walked out of our lives. He closed the door behind him and never returned. I do not know where he is now, and with time, I stopped trying to find out. I have only one child, my son, Daniel. When his father left, Daniel was barely 6 years old. He does not remember much about him. Whenever I gently try to mention the past, he quickly changes the subject. I learned not to push. After my husband left, life became a daily battle. I had no savings, no support, and no clear future. All I had was a frightened heart and a small boy who depended on me. I worked wherever I could. In the mornings, I cleaned large houses that did not belong to me. In the evenings, I worked at a small grocery store, stocking shelves until my feet burned with pain. My hands were rough, my back constantly ached, but I never complained. A mother does not have the luxury of giving up. I stopped thinking about my own dreams. I did not buy new clothes. I avoided spending money on anything unnecessary. Every dollar went toward rent, school supplies, food, and bills. Life felt heavy, but love made it possible to carry. Years passed. Daniel grew into a handsome, intelligent young man. I felt proud every time I looked at him. I truly believed that no matter where life took him, he would always remain close to me. Everything began to change when he turned 28. One evening, he told me about a woman named Olivia. His eyes lit up when he said her name. He described her as confident, stylish, and ambitious. Seeing him excited made me happy. I wanted his happiness more than anything. A week later, he brought Olivia to dinner. She was polite at first. She complimented my cooking and said our home felt cozy. She smiled often, but behind that smile, I sensed something distant, something calculating. I ignored the feeling. I told myself I was imagining things. Gradually, small comments began to appear. She would say, Daniel deserved better clothes. She would suggest more expensive restaurants. She often talked about her wealthy friends and their luxurious lifestyles. Daniel started changing in ways I did not expect. He stopped visiting his childhood friends. He began dressing differently, speaking differently, even carrying himself differently. The warm, humble boy I had raised seemed to fade a little more each week. Our Sunday dinners slowly disappeared. At first, he said he was busy with work. Then he claimed he was exhausted. Eventually, he stopped coming altogether. His phone calls became short and rushed. "Mom, I'll call you later," he would say. One afternoon, I gathered my courage. "Daniel," I said gently, "you seem different. I'm worried about you." The moment I mentioned Olivia, his expression hardened. "You don't understand," he said sharply. "I need to live my own life." His words felt like a knife. I was not trying to control him. I was only trying to protect him. But he could no longer see the difference. Weeks turned into months. My house grew quiet and cold. Every morning, I stared at my silent phone. Every evening, I looked out the window, hoping to see his car. One night, I could not bear the silence any longer. I decided to visit his apartment. My hands trembled as I pressed the elevator button. On the 5th floor, I walked slowly down the hallway and stopped in front of apartment 27. My heart pounded as I knocked. The door opened. Olivia stood there. Her eyes were cool and distant. "Is Daniel home?" I asked softly. "I need to see him." She did not invite me in. "He doesn't want to see you," she said calmly. My chest tightened. "What do you mean?" "He needs freedom," she replied. "Freedom from what?" I whispered. "From you." I knew Daniel was inside. I could feel it. But he did not come to the door. He did not call my name. I turned and walked slowly down the hallway, holding back tears. That night, it felt as though I had lost my son. Days passed, and then weeks. Silence became my only companion. The house felt larger than before, but also emptier. I would wake up early and sit at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, staring at my phone, hoping it would ring. Every evening, I found myself standing by the window, watching the street, imagining his car pulling into the driveway. But it never did. Sometimes I noticed neighbors looking at me with quiet curiosity. I wondered what they thought. Perhaps they believed I had failed as a mother. Perhaps they assumed I had driven my own son away. I carried those silent judgments alone, without defending myself. A mother learns to endure more than she ever imagined. One morning, while flipping through the local newspaper, a familiar name caught my attention. Daniel Brooks. My heart skipped. I read the article twice to be sure. It mentioned a public argument at a downtown restaurant. Olivia had been seen with another man, someone described as one of Daniel's close friends. There were photographs. There were whispers of betrayal. The paper slipped from my hands. I did not feel anger. I did not feel satisfaction. I only felt pain for my son. No matter how deeply he had hurt me, he was still my child. I wanted to run to him, to hold him, to tell him everything would be all right. But I remembered the cold door, the silence, the words about freedom. Fear held me back. That evening, as the sky turned gray, I heard a knock at my door. My heart began to race. No one ever visited me anymore. Slowly, I walked to the door and opened it. Daniel stood there. He looked nothing like the confident man who had once walked away. His shoulders were slumped. His eyes were red and swollen. His face was pale, as if he had not slept in days. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then his voice broke. "Mom, I'm sorry." The word shattered something inside me. He stepped forward, and suddenly he was no longer a grown man. He was my little boy again, the child who once held my hand while crossing the street, the child who needed comfort after a nightmare. He collapsed into my arms, and I held him tightly. In that embrace, I did not see betrayal. I did not see rejection. I only saw my son, hurt, confused, and lost. He told me everything that night, how Olivia had changed after they moved in together, how she had grown distant, how he ignored the warning signs because he was afraid of being alone, and how the truth finally broke him. I listened without judgment. When he finished speaking, I simply said, "You are home now." Daniel moved back into my small house a few weeks later. The rooms no longer felt empty. I could hear his footsteps again, his voice calling from the next room. The silence that once haunted me slowly faded. Some people asked me how I could forgive him so easily. They asked how I could forget the months of pain, the harsh words, the closed door. But forgiveness is not something a mother calculates. When I look at Daniel, I do not see the man who chose someone else over me. I see the child I carried, the boy I raised with sacrifice and love. Families can wound each other deeply. Words can break hearts. Pride can build walls. But love, real love, can quietly tear those walls down. I do not know what the future holds for my son. I cannot protect him from every mistake. But I know this: no matter how far he walks away, there will always be a light on in this house, and I will always be here.